Tiffani, why don't you just tell everybody who you are? I like to just have you explain it yourself, and then we can get into more of the details.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who I am anymore. I used to be the chef and owner of Sweet Cheeks, Tiger Mama, Orfano, and Fool's Errand, and then the upcoming food hall spaces in High Street Place.
That's awesome. And so it's right in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, Vega had to make the decision to close. That was really hard for Ashley. And as a business owner yourself, and also you're a creator as well, and
Mm-hmm.
you're in the field and you're cooking, you have a lot of passion behind your business. How was it making that decision to close? Because if none of you know that, a lot of restaurants in the area, I'm sure this is across the country right now for what I've seen, people are choosing to do takeout. And I know that you just chose to shut down. So could you tell me your thought process behind that?
Sure. We started doing takeout and delivery in the beginning.
Right.
And just the first thing I looked at was financially, like, what's my break even, right? Like, I unfortunately had to furlough the majority of my staff, like, right at the beginning of this. I kept my managers on as long as I could. We had a break even. We needed to do as much takeout or delivery to just break even for the ability to pay our managers. And we were getting close, and kind of some days we were meeting that. Some days we weren't. And so that was obviously a factor. Secondly, we don't know enough about what COVID-19 is. We just don't know. And there's not clear answers coming out of anywhere. So at some point I have the obligation to keep my staff safe and keep my team safe. And I just, it came down to like having a really tough conversation with myself, which is, if at any point any one of my kids became infected, my team became infected,
Well,
and the fam was negatively impacted. Because of the decision I made to stay open, I wouldn't be able to live with myself, or any of our guests for that matter. We just don't, we're all young. And so we could be asymptomatic for a very long time, if forever, and be coming into contact with people and spreading it. So just came down to what the right thing to do is, I think. Not easy. It was excruciating.
Right. It's really, I think people are seeing, oh, well, people have to shut down their businesses, but people don't see the actual emotions that go behind that. We spoke with John Aragu, who owns her own salon on Newberry Street. Mm-hmm. Super emotional and tough for her yesterday. She thought she was going to be working this week. Ashley Hilmis, for Vega Vitality, she had to lay off one of our employees. That was gut-wrenching for her. So if you could just talk about too, like, coming to the decision of, how am I going to handle this financially, but also keep my business going and keep my team empowered at the same time. It's a lot to deal with.
And they're two completely different boxes, right? So like, there's the business mind, and then there's like the leader mind of how do I keep us from all going crazy, and how can I provide any sort of, comfort at all in this? Like, how do I say, when there's no information, we don't know what this is, we don't know how long it's going to last, I can't provide answers that I don't have. So, one of the things that and I'm very upfront with my staff, I always say, like, I'm never going to lie to you, and I'm never going to blow marshmallows up your, if I don't have the answers, can't provide answers I don't have. And because we've always operated that way, in transparency and being honest with each other, I don't think they expected any sort of, BS out of me. I just said, we'll do our very best to, get through this and get on the other side of it. So now really my responsibility is advocating on behalf of the industry and my staff to the people that are listening. I just got off of a call with Joe Kennedy, talking to our state representatives and talking to, our federal representatives as well, and making sure they really know that independent businesses need such a large infusion of money to come back from this, or else, we don't know where it leaves us. So business-wise, I don't know. You ultimately just have to start doing what you think is right. And for me, that was closing the doors and waiting this out. And so, I don't know. And then I think just being honest with each other, not freaking one out, trying to maintain a level head about things. There's no sense in trying to, freak out about something that none of us have answers to, So there's a little bit of comfort, cold comfort, but comfort knowing that we're all in the same boat.
Right. And it's the fear of the unknown, because we don't have those answers. And I have to give you a round of applause just for stepping up and being that voice, because I feel like a lot of restaurant owners too, they have nowhere to turn, and they're freaking out and they think their business is done. But keeping that empowerment and moving forward. That's really admirable. And if you're just joining in, we're here with Tiffani. She was a finalist on Top Chef and on various cooking shows. She owns restaurants in the Boston areas, from Boston area, from Tiger Mama to Fool's Errand, owner of Sweet Cheeks, Orfano. I wanted to talk about too. So MLB opening day was supposed to be in 2 days. Obviously that's postponed. Is that tough for you too to think of? I would imagine that you would do a lot of business that day as well.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, obviously that becomes like such a huge part of our business planning and our financial planning for the year. One of the things that the rest of the world doesn't always think about is economically, and you guys are probably in the same boat. Maybe not. Yep. Restaurants really, January, February, March are notoriously quiet for restaurants. So we're coming out of what is already a business that doesn't have a significant amount of cash flow, and operates on thin margins. And so then from, the first quarter of the year, we're coming out of that. And this is really when we should start ramping back up financially and kind of make up for those 3 months that are so hard for us. So not only is this awful, the timing of it's really awful. And then not being able to capture opening day, Marathon Monday, like all of those things that are such a huge inflection of cash for us. It's really frustrating, but who am I going to be mad at? Like this is no one's fault. And so it's the right thing to do to close the stadiums and to make sure that we're keeping each other safe. So, anger's futile in this. Like we're all just going to sit and figure it out and be as smart and hopefully as kind and compassionate as we can with each other.
Let's talk about presently what we can do to help your restaurants out or just help other restaurants out. What are you planning on doing? I know that you must have had some time to think about, okay, well, how can I still keep my restaurant alive and how can people help out during this time?
Right. So my biggest concern is obviously for my team. There's such a significant amount of my team that's been furloughed, hourly tipped workers, there's not a lot of cash in reserves for them. And so just making sure that they can pay their rent and they can feed their families and feed themselves and just stay somewhat head above water in this. So that's my biggest concern right now. There's a few things you can do. There's some really creative stuff going on out there. The first thing I'll talk about is just our own GoFundMe. So if you go to GoFundMe and then search for Big Heart Hospitality, we have a workers fund that we've started and we would love it if you can donate to that. Any denomination really does help. So that's one. There are a couple things bouncing around the interwebs. People are having cocktail hours, sort of like virtual cocktail hours on Zoom.
Yeah.
And there is, I'm going to find it. I'll post it on my Instagram later. There's a link to an organization that's for bartenders, essentially. So normally you would go to your bar and have a drink and tip your bartender. So while you're having a cocktail at home, it has their Venmo information and you can tip them. So that would be really helpful. So it's really sweet and cute. So you can also please call the Capital Switchboard and make sure that they know that small businesses really need to be a huge part of this bailout. So I think it's 212-223-3121. Wow. I think that's it.
Okay. We need
I know. I've said it so many times in the last couple of days. So double check me on that, but I think that's it. So it's really important. And then for other restaurants, reach out to them at the very least, just make sure that they know that you're here. We thrive because we love taking care of people. And so, there's the businesses closed aspects of it. And then there's just like, we miss you guys. Like you're our guests and you're our lifeline and our vitality. We do this because we love taking care of people. So taking, the social aspect out of this is so hard. And, everyone, but certainly restaurant people, like we know that our strength is really in like coming together and being physically present together and being able to dig ourselves out and do things together, and removing that is hard, really hard.
It's hard.
It's hard on the heart.
Yeah. And it's just so tough for everyone right now. And we really commend you on just stepping up and just coming on here too and talking to us about it. It's taken a lot of people to even talk about it, just because no one knows what's going on. So we want to help anyone we can. Yep. And I want to try to flip this to a more positive note, even though it's kind of hard to see that right now.
No, we have to.
And a lot of people, so we're stuck in our houses. We have to cook.
Yep.
I miss going to a restaurant personally and just having delicious food because I'm really over veggie burgers. On day whatever it is, I'm just popping in the oven. I'm like, this is really getting depressing. Any like fun snacks or what are you cooking? I'm sure that none of us are at your ability whatsoever, Miss Top Chef. But anything that you can just give for like fun tips on just we're staying home or we're cooking.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, so as the things that you normally do, so like staples, let's take scrambled eggs for an example.
Just because no one knows what's going on, so we want to help anyone we can. And I want to try to flip this to a more positive note, even though it's kind of hard to see that right now.
No, we have to. We have to.
We have to. And a lot of people, so we're stuck in our houses. We have to cook.
Yep.
I miss going to a restaurant personally and just having delicious food because I'm really over veggie burgers on day whatever it is, I'm just popping in the oven. I'm like, this is really getting depressing. Any like fun snacks or what are you cooking? I'm sure that none of us are at your ability whatsoever, Miss Top Chef. But anything that you can just give for like fun tips on just we're staying home or we're cooking.
Yeah, you know? I mean, so as the things that you normally do, so like staples, let's take scrambled eggs for an example. This morning I made like an Indian version of scrambled eggs. So you know, just think about the things that you are used to making and that don't intimidate you if you don't want this giant project of cooking, or if you're not don't think you're a great cook, and start adding other things to it, right? So instead of scrambled eggs, I started with onions, and then I added a little bit of garlic and then tomato, and then sort of brought that down with some cumin and some turmeric and some chilies, and then let that kind of come into a sauce, and then scrambled my eggs into that, right? So flavoring things a little bit differently, playing with spices and the things that you normally use if you're used to making chicken at home and you have, you know, time or the ability to start playing around with your spice cabinet. All those little jars that you've been ignoring for so long and that people gave you gifts. Start using them. Exactly. Yeah. Fresh herbs are a really good way of including a lot of flavor, not a lot of calories, and, you know, a ton of like just vitamins in for you. So we're still able to go to the store. So if you can, go grab I would get all the greens, all the fresh herbs you can, you know, just start moving that stuff into your diet. But the other thing is also just, you know, I think it's really easy to start getting hard on ourselves and to have this, it's really, you know, emotionally fraught time. And so the ups and downs of this, like, you know, if you want to have 6 Oreos, eat fucking 6 Oreos, who cares? You know, like, but do something, be physical, make sure you're taking care of yourself. I have been, like every night, D Nice on Instagram, this DJ goes on, he's going on tonight at 6:30 and he's fun and he's amazing and I'm dancing my ass off. Yes.
That put a big smile on my face. I've been loving that too. I think, DJ Nice. Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah, D Nice on Instagram. Like all these people are joining the party and you feel, there's just ways to feel connected even though we're physically apart. And I think that's really important.
All right. So 3 takeaways if you want from people just to leave this live, take away from our conversation today. It can be funny. It can be, we can plug in too, just to help the restaurant. I think that was super interesting. I think a lot of people don't know how to help. They just think it's takeout, but a lot of restaurants still aren't open for takeout. So just 3 takeaways that we can like leave people with when we end this live.
Sure. Number 1, if you want to go to GoFundMe and find Big Heart Hospitality, we would love it if you would give to our Restaurant Workers Fund. That'd be great. So just Google Big Heart or search Big Heart Hospitality in the GoFundMe page. Number 2, call the switchboard 202-223-3121. I do actually know it. And talk to our representatives. Make sure that they know that small businesses have to be in the bailout package. And 3, get rid of your pants. 86 pants. No more pants at home. Get rid of your pants.
Who needs them? No.
Who needs pants anymore?
All right. We thank you so much. I know I'm really excited I've had Tiger Mama before because I love being over in Fenway, especially Red Sox season, and it's delicious.
Thank you.
Check it out if you haven't. We're going to get through this, and thank you so much for being so positive and uplifting during this conversation. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.